A lesson in dignity. The morning sun cast its warm light over the bustling streets of the city as Clara adjusted her frayed scarf and clutched her cloth bag. Her modest attire stood out among the polished heels and tailored suits that paraded the sidewalk. But today, Clara wasn't concerned about appearances. She had a purpose. Her steps faltered as she neared the Golden Sun jewelry store, its lavish facade radiating opulence. The shop's gleaming glass windows displayed exquisite pieces, necklaces, bracelets, and rings that sparkled like captured sunlight. Clara's heart skipped a beat as she spotted the silver necklace with a blue stone in the display case, a perfect gift for her granddaughter's wedding. The bell above the door jingled softly as Clara entered, but her presence was met with an unspoken shift in the room. The polished employees behind the counters exchanged subtle glances, their expressions laced with thinly veiled disdain. Clara offered a polite smile, her voice soft but resolute. "Good morning," she began. "I'd like to see the silver necklace with the blue stone, please." A young employee, Lucy, glanced at her from head to toe, her perfectly arched eyebrows rising ever so slightly. "Which one are you talking about?" she asked, her tone tinged with condescension. Clara pointed toward the far corner of the display. "That one. Over there." Lucy's lips curled into a smirk. "Oh, that one. I don't think you can afford it. It's very expensive." Clara blinked, startled by the bluntness of the comment. Summoning her courage, she replied, "I have the money. Please, just show it to me." Lucy rolled her eyes and called over the manager, Mr. Stephen. He was impeccably dressed, his suit sharp and tailored, but his demeanor exuded a palpable air of arrogance. "This woman wants to see the silver necklace in the corner," Lucy said, barely suppressing a chuckle. Stephen frowned and crossed his arms as he approached. "That necklace isn't available for sale," he declared without preamble. "You can look at other pieces that might better fit your budget." Clara's brow furrowed. "But I saw it in the display. Why can't I buy it?" Stephen's tone grew curt. "Because it's a display piece reserved for VIP clients." Her stomach churned with humiliation, but she managed to whisper, "I've saved for years to buy this. It's a gift for my granddaughter." Stephen raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed. "We have other items that might suit you better. Perhaps you should try a smaller shop in the area." The muffled laughter of Lucy and another employee, Charles, reached Clara's ears. "She probably can't even afford the box it comes in," one of them murmured. Clara's cheeks burned, but she swallowed her pride, clutched her bag tightly, and left the store, the bells jingle feeling more like a toll of defeat. A spark ignites. That night, Clara sat in her small kitchen, the envelope of savings resting on the table before her. She thought about the years of sacrifices she had made to save this money. Every coin in that envelope represented a moment of patience, discipline, and love. The humiliation she had endured earlier that day lingered like a heavy shadow, but somewhere beneath the pain, a spark of determination began to grow. The next morning, Clara returned to the jewelry store. This time, she entered with her chin held high. The staff's reactions were predictably dismissive. Lucy rolled her eyes, and Charles smirked openly. Stephen's expression turned sour at the sight of her. "I've told you before," he said sharply. "The necklace isn't available to you." Clara looked him in the eye. "I'm not leaving until you sell me that necklace." The other customers in the store began to notice the commotion. Whispers floated through the air, and a few chuckles erupted. Clara's heart pounded, but she refused to back down. Stephen sighed dramatically. "Madam, if you won't leave, I'll have to call security." Before he could act, however, a deep, commanding voice interrupted. "That won't be necessary." All heads turned toward the entrance, where a man in a sharp gray suit stood. His silver hair and confident stance exuded authority. It was Mr. Vincent, the man Clara had met the previous day on the park bench. A shocking turn of events. "Mr. Vincent," Stephen stammered, his demeanor shifting immediately. "What a surprise. We didn't know you'd be visiting today." Vincent's piercing gaze swept across the room, landing on Clara. He approached her and offered a kind smile before turning back to Stephen. "Is this how you treat your customers?" Vincent asked, his voice calm but laced with steel. Stephen flushed. "Of course not, sir. It's just that." "Enough," Vincent interrupted, holding up a hand. He reached into his pocket and produced a business card, which he handed to Clara. "Mrs. Clara," he said warmly, "I'd like to formally introduce myself. I'm the owner of the Golden Sun Jewelry Store." A stunned silence fell over the room. Stephen's face paled, and Lucy's smirk vanished. Clara stared at Vincent, her mouth slightly agape. "I overheard what happened yesterday," Vincent continued, his tone sharp as he addressed the employees. "The way you treated this woman is unacceptable and goes against everything this company stands for." He turned to Clara. "You have my deepest apologies for the behavior of my staff. That necklace is yours, free of charge. Consider it a gift for your granddaughter." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Thank you," she whispered. "But I don't want charity. I want to buy it with the money I saved." Vincent smiled. "Then I'll make you an offer. Let me personally assist you with your purchase, and afterward, let's discuss how we can ensure no one else is treated this way." A new chapter. By the end of the day, Clara left the store with the necklace in hand and her dignity restored. But her story didn't end there. True to his word, Vincent invited Clara to partner with him to revamp the store's policies and training programs. Together, they worked to create an environment that valued kindness and respect over superficial judgments. Months later, the Golden Sun Jewelry Store became known not just for its beautiful pieces, but also for its exceptional customer service, and every employee who had mocked Clara was replaced by someone who understood the value of treating others with dignity. Clara's granddaughter wore the silver necklace with the blue stone on her wedding day, its beauty matched only by the love and resilience of the woman who had fought to make it hers. And for Clara, the experience became a reminder that even in the face of humiliation, standing up for yourself can spark change, not just for you, but for the world around you. This conveys a heartfelt lesson. Never underestimate the power of dignity, determination, and kindness to transform even the most challenging circumstances. The flame of justice. For days, Clara's encounter at the jewelry store lingered in her mind. The sting of humiliation had faded into something sharper, an unyielding sense of injustice. She couldn't simply walk away, not when the memory of their sneers still burned in her chest. It wasn't just about her anymore. What about others who might face the same treatment? Elderly women like her, young dreamers, or anyone who didn't fit the store's vision of an ideal customer. One evening, Clara sat by her fireplace, staring into the crackling flames. On her lap rested the card Mr. Vincent had given her. His words replayed in her mind. "Sometimes you don't need power or money, just determination." A thought began to form, slowly solidifying into a plan. The following morning, she dressed in her modest best, tying her scarf with extra care. With a steady hand, she reached for the phone and dialed the number printed on the card. The line rang twice before a familiar, reassuring voice answered. "Mrs. Clara," Mr. Vincent greeted warmly. "I've been expecting your call. How can I assist you?" Clara hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Mr. Vincent, I've been thinking about what you said, about standing up for myself. I don't want anyone else to experience what I did in that store, but I need your help." Vincent's tone shifted, filled with curiosity and respect. "Of course, Mrs. Clara. Tell me what you have in mind." The gathering storm. Over the next few weeks, Clara and Vincent worked tirelessly behind the scenes. Vincent, impressed by Clara's wisdom and determination, introduced her to influential figures in the retail and customer service industries. Clara shared her story with quiet dignity, each word carrying the weight of her experience. Her passion struck a chord with those who heard her. Vincent went a step further. He granted Clara access to the jewelry store's operations, providing insight into its training programs and customer policies. What they discovered was troubling. A culture that rewarded sales performance above all else, fostering arrogance among staff. There were no guidelines emphasizing empathy, respect, or inclusivity. "We need to change this from the ground up," Clara said during one of their late-night strategy sessions. "It's not just about policies, it's about values." Vincent nodded in agreement. "You're absolutely right, and I think you're the perfect person to lead this effort." Clara blinked in surprise. "Me? Lead? I'm just an old woman from a small village." "You're so much more than that," Vincent replied firmly. "You have the courage to stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. That's leadership." The reckoning. The day finally came when Clara returned to the Golden Sun jewelry store. But this time, she wasn't alone. Vincent accompanied her, along with a few key stakeholders and members of the media who had heard about Clara's story. The store's staff, including Stephen, Lucy, and Charles, were taken aback by the unexpected arrival. "Mr. Vincent," Stephen began nervously, "we weren't expecting you today." Vincent's expression was unreadable as he addressed the staff. "I've come to make some important announcements, and I wanted Mrs. Clara to be here as well." Stephen's face flushed at the mention of Clara's name, and Lucy looked as though she'd swallowed a lemon. Clara stood silently, her gaze steady and unwavering. Vincent cleared his throat. "Effective immediately, we're implementing a comprehensive overhaul of our policies and practices. This store will no longer tolerate behavior that disrespects or demeans our customers." He gestured toward Clara. "Mrs. Clara has been instrumental in shaping this new direction. Her experience serves as a powerful reminder of why empathy and respect must be at the heart of everything we do." Clara stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "I came here with the hope of buying a gift for someone I love. Instead, I was judged and dismissed because of how I looked. No one deserves to be treated that way." The room fell silent, the weight of her words sinking in. Clara turned to Stephen, Lucy, and Charles, her gaze steady. "You didn't just refuse to sell me a necklace. You dismissed my worth as a person. That kind of thinking has no place here." Vincent stepped in again, his tone stern. "To ensure this never happens again, we're making changes to the staff as well. Those who cannot uphold our values will no longer have a place in this company." Stephen's jaw dropped, and Lucy paled visibly. It was clear their time at the store had come to an end. A new dawn. In the weeks that followed, the Golden Sun jewelry store transformed. Clara worked closely with Vincent to design a customer experience program rooted in compassion and fairness. New employees were hired, trained not only in product knowledge, but also in treating every customer with dignity, regardless of their appearance or background. The story of Clara's journey spread far and wide, drawing attention from national media outlets. Customers flocked to the store, not just for its beautiful jewelry, but for the promise of a welcoming and respectful shopping experience. Clara became a symbol of quiet resilience, proving that even the smallest voice could spark meaningful change. Her granddaughter, Lucy, beamed with pride on her wedding day as she wore the silver necklace with the blue stone, a gift imbued with love, struggle, and triumph. As Clara watched her dance under the soft glow of twinkling lights, she felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The lesson endures. Years later, Clara's story continued to inspire others. The jewelry store thrived, its transformation serving as a blueprint for businesses everywhere. And Clara, she returned to her village, living quietly but contentedly, knowing she had left an indelible mark on the world. Her granddaughter often visited, bringing tales of customers who shared how the store's new approach had touched their lives. Each story was a testament to Clara's courage, a reminder that even in the face of humiliation, standing up for one's dignity could light the way for others. And so, Clara's legacy endured, a simple, powerful lesson that transcended time. True worth is not measured by appearances or possessions, but by the strength of one's character and the kindness of one's heart. This continuation dives deeper into Clara's transformation from a victim of injustice to a leader of change, emphasizing the broader impact of her actions and leaving readers with a message of hope, empowerment, and resilience. The ripple effect. Months passed since the transformation of the Golden Sun jewelry store. Clara returned to her modest village, her heart lighter but her resolve unshaken. Though she was glad to retreat to the familiar quiet of her small home, her life had changed in ways she hadn't anticipated. She wasn't just Mrs. Clara from the village anymore. She was now a symbol of resilience, of standing tall in the face of prejudice. However, her work wasn't finished. An unexpected invitation. One morning, as Clara tended to her garden, a young courier approached her modest gate with a letter in hand. The envelope was pristine and elegant, stamped with a wax seal. Clara's brow furrowed as she carefully opened it. Inside was an invitation to speak at a prestigious business summit in the city, where CEOs and leaders from around the country would gather to discuss ethical practices in commerce. Clara's first instinct was to decline. She wasn't a businesswoman or a public speaker. She was a grandmother who had stood up for herself in a moment of injustice. What could she possibly have to say to these accomplished individuals? But as she reread the letter, her granddaughter's words echoed in her mind. "You're so much stronger than you think, Grandma. What you did inspired so many people." Clara took a deep breath and penned her response. She would attend. Preparing for the spotlight. The days leading up to the summit were filled with quiet preparation. Clara worked closely with Mr. Vincent, who had become a trusted confidant and ally. He helped her organize her thoughts into a speech, but Clara insisted on speaking from the heart rather than relying on polished rhetoric. "It's your story that matters, Clara," Vincent reassured her. "People will connect with the honesty of your experience." When the day of the summit arrived, Clara felt a mix of nerves and determination. She wore her best dress, a simple, deep blue outfit that her granddaughter had lovingly tailored for her. Around her neck hung the silver necklace with the blue stone, a symbol of the journey that had brought her here. Clara's speech, a voice of change. The room was vast, filled with influential figures dressed in sharp suits and elegant gowns. The air buzzed with chatter as the attendees exchanged ideas and networked. Clara, feeling small yet resolute, took her place at the podium when her name was called. As she adjusted the microphone, the room fell silent. She glanced at Vincent, who gave her an encouraging nod from the front row. Then she began. "Good afternoon," Clara said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "My name is Clara, and I am not a business leader, a CEO, or an expert in commerce. I am an ordinary woman from a small village, and I never imagined I would stand before you today." She paused, her eyes sweeping the audience. "But I'm here because of a lesson I learned in one of life's most humbling moments. It is a lesson about dignity, about seeing people for who they are and not what they appear to be." Clara recounted her experience at the jewelry store, her voice calm but impassioned. She spoke of the pain of being dismissed, the strength it took to return, and the hope she found in standing up for herself. She didn't shy away from describing the humiliation she faced or the fire it lit within her. "But this isn't just my story," Clara continued. "It's a story that plays out every day in countless places. It's about the mother who is judged for her worn clothes as she buys school supplies for her child. The young man denied a job interview because of his accent. The elderly woman ignored because she doesn't look like a real customer. These are stories of judgment, of dismissal, of a failure to see the humanity in others." Her voice grew stronger as she looked out at the attentive faces. "As business leaders, you have the power to change this. You can create environments where every customer, every employee, and every person is treated with respect and kindness. It's not just good ethics, it's good business. Because when people feel valued, they will value you in return." The room erupted into applause when Clara finished. Tears welled in her eyes as she stepped away from the podium, her heart swelling with a mix of relief and pride. She had done it. She had shared her truth, and it resonated. A movement begins. Clara's speech became the highlight of the summit, sparking conversations that extended far beyond the event. Attendees shared her words on social media, and soon, the story of Clara's lesson went viral. Businesses across the country began reevaluating their customer service policies, implementing training programs that emphasized empathy and inclusivity. Vincent, inspired by Clara's impact, launched an initiative called the Clara Code, a set of guidelines for treating customers and employees with dignity and fairness. The initiative gained traction, with hundreds of businesses adopting it within months. Clara herself became a sought-after speaker, traveling to schools, organizations, and community centers to share her story. Though she missed the quiet of her village, she embraced this new chapter with grace, knowing she was making a difference, a legacy of compassion. Years later, Clara's influence could still be felt. The Golden Sun jewelry store became a model for ethical retail practices, and its success inspired other companies to follow suit. The necklace with the blue stone became a cherished heirloom, passed down through Clara's family as a symbol of resilience and love. Clara, now in her 90s, spent her days tending to her garden, surrounded by her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. They often sat by her side, listening to her stories and drawing strength from her wisdom. One sunny afternoon, her granddaughter, now a mother herself, held Clara's hand and said, "Grandma, you've taught us so much, not just about standing up for ourselves, but about standing up for others." Clara smiled, her eyes twinkling. "It's not about being loud or powerful," she said. "It's about knowing your worth and refusing to let anyone take that from you. And when you can, you use that strength to lift others up." As the sun dipped below the horizon, Clara gazed at her blooming flowers, a contented smile on her face. She knew that her fight for dignity had created a ripple effect, touching lives in ways she could never have imagined. Her story became a testament to the truth that even the smallest actions, when rooted in courage and kindness, can create waves of change that endure for generations. This conclusion highlights Clara's lasting impact, weaving an inspiring tale of transformation, compassion, and legacy. It emphasizes the universal importance of dignity and empathy, leaving a profound message, planting seeds of hope. Though Clara's name had become synonymous with resilience and dignity, she often reminded herself that her journey wasn't about personal glory. It was about the broader impact, the lives she could touch, and the changes she could inspire. But even as the world celebrated her story, Clara's humble nature kept her grounded. She didn't see herself as a hero, just someone who had chosen to speak up when it mattered. One quiet evening, as Clara sat on her porch sipping tea, a letter arrived. It was from a young woman named Elena, who owned a small, struggling shop in a neighboring town. Elena had heard Clara's speech at the summit and wanted her advice. The letter was heartfelt and raw, detailing Elena's struggles with running a business while staying true to her values. "Dear Mrs. Clara," the letter began, "your story gave me courage, but I still feel lost. I want to create a space where people feel welcome and respected, but the pressures of competition make it so hard. How did you stay strong when it seemed like the world was against you?" Clara read the letter twice, her heart aching for the young woman. She remembered the doubt she had once carried, the fear of being too small to make a difference. Setting her cup aside, Clara picked up a pen and began to write. The mentor and the student. The next week, Clara visited Elena's shop, a modest storefront tucked away on a quiet street. Inside, she found shelves lined with handmade goods, intricately woven scarves, delicate pottery, and handcrafted jewelry. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the cold luxury of the Golden Sun jewelry store. Elena, a petite woman with kind eyes and calloused hands, greeted Clara nervously. "I can't believe you came," she said, wringing her hands. "I didn't expect you to actually respond." Clara smiled and patted Elena's arm. "Of course I came. You remind me of myself, and I want to help." For hours, they talked. Clara shared her story in greater detail, focusing not just on the triumph, but also on the doubts and fears she had faced along the way. Alina listened intently, her expression shifting from worry to hope. "What you've built here is beautiful," Clara said, gesturing to the shop. "It's not about how big or fancy your store is. It's about the heart you put into it. That's what people will remember." "But how do I compete with the bigger stores?" Alina asked, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "They have so much more than I do." Clara leaned forward, her eyes steady. "You don't compete by being like them. You stand out by being yourself. Focus on creating a space where people feel seen and valued. Word will spread, and your business will grow. Not because you're trying to outdo others, but because you're offering something they can't. A community transformed." Inspired by Clara's advice, Alina began implementing small but meaningful changes in her shop. She introduced a pay-what-you-can shelf for customers who couldn't afford the full price of certain items. She started hosting community events, inviting local artisans to share their skills. Her shop became a hub of creativity and connection, a place where everyone felt welcome. True to Clara's prediction, word spread. Alina's shop, once overlooked, became a beloved cornerstone of the community. Customers came not just for the products, but for the kindness and warmth they found within its walls. Clara, delighted by Alina's success, continued to mentor others who reached out to her. Farmers, tailors, teachers, and shopkeepers from all walks of life sought her guidance. Each time, Clara listened patiently, offering wisdom drawn from her own experiences. She began hosting small workshops in her village, teaching people how to build businesses and communities rooted in compassion. Her home became a gathering place for dreamers and doers, a space where ideas blossomed and connections flourished. Challenges and choices. Despite her growing influence, Clara faced criticism from skeptics who dismissed her approach as idealistic. Some argued that businesses couldn't survive on kindness alone, especially in a cutthroat world. Clara responded with quiet conviction. "Kindness is not a weakness," she would say. "It's the foundation of trust, and trust is what builds loyalty. People will return to you, not just because of what you sell, but because of how you make them feel." One of her harshest critics was a prominent business tycoon who attended one of her talks. He challenged her during the Q&A session, dismissing her ideas as naive. Clara listened calmly, then asked him a simple question. "Have you ever felt invisible? Have you ever walked into a room and known, without a doubt, that you didn't matter to the people there?" The tycoon hesitated, caught off guard by her question. Clara continued, her voice steady. "That's how I felt the day I walked into that jewelry store. And that feeling is something no one should have to endure. If your business can prevent even one person from feeling that way, isn't it worth trying?" The room erupted in applause. The tycoon, though clearly uncomfortable, nodded reluctantly. Clara's words had struck a chord, the legacy of a lifetime. As the years passed, Clara's influence continued to ripple outward. Communities across the country adopted her principles, creating spaces where dignity and respect were prioritized. The Clara Code became more than a set of guidelines. It became a movement, championed by those who believed in the power of kindness. Clara herself remained humble, always crediting others for their role in the change. She often reminded people that she was just one person who had chosen to speak up. "The real work," she would say, "is done by all of you who carry this message forward." One spring afternoon, surrounded by her family and friends, Clara celebrated her 95th birthday. Her garden was alive with laughter and music, a testament to the vibrant community she had nurtured. As she looked around at the faces of those she had touched, she felt a deep sense of fulfillment. Her granddaughter, now a mother of two, approached her with a gift. Inside the box was a delicate silver bracelet adorned with a small blue stone, a tribute to the necklace that had started it all. "Grandma," her granddaughter said, tears in her eyes, "you've shown us that even the smallest actions can lead to the biggest changes. This is for you, a reminder of the strength and love you shared with the world." Clara held the bracelet close, her heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "But remember, the strength is in all of us. Never forget that." As the sun set over the garden, casting a warm golden glow, Clara sat quietly, reflecting on her journey. She had faced humiliation and doubt, but she had also discovered the power of her voice, and in doing so, she had planted seeds of hope that would continue to grow long after she was gone. This final part of Clara's story reinforces her lasting impact, highlighting the challenges she faced, the community she inspired, and the enduring legacy of her actions. It's a powerful reminder that even the smallest gestures of courage and kindness can create ripples that change the world. The generational ripple. Years turned into decades, and Clara's story became more than a tale of resilience. It evolved into a symbol of hope, spreading far beyond her small village. Her teachings and actions had inspired not only individuals but also movements, corporations, and communities worldwide. Yet Clara's focus always remained on the people who mattered most to her, her family, and the young dreamers who continued to seek her guidance. Now nearing her centennial year, Clara sat in her modest home, watching the sunrise over her flourishing garden. Her hands, aged but steady, rested on a journal filled with handwritten notes, sketches, and letters from those she had inspired over the years. This journal, she knew, would be her final gift to the world, a repository of wisdom for future generations. The next generation steps up. One crisp autumn morning, Clara's great-granddaughter, Amelia, arrived at her home. At just 24, Amelia was already a force to be reckoned with, a budding entrepreneur with dreams of building a business that combined technology with social impact. But like Clara had been decades earlier, Amelia found herself struggling against societal expectations and self-doubt. "I don't know, Grandma Clara," Amelia said as they sat together on the porch, sipping tea. "Sometimes it feels like the world only listens to the loudest voices, the ones with power and wealth. What can someone like me really do?" Clara smiled gently, her eyes sparkling with the wisdom of a life well lived. "Amelia, I once thought the same thing. But remember this. True change begins in small, quiet moments when we decide to stand up for what's right. It's not about being loud. It's about being steadfast." Amelia listened intently as Clara shared stories of her early days. She spoke not only of her triumphs but also of her fears and failures, the moments when she had doubted herself yet pressed on. "Every person who doubted me gave me a reason to prove them wrong," Clara said, her voice steady. "And every person who believed in me gave me the strength to keep going. You have that strength too." Amelia's resolve deepened. She decided to use Clara's teachings as the foundation for her business, weaving empathy and inclusion into its very core. She launched a tech startup designed to connect small artisans, especially those from underserved communities, with global markets. Clara's story became the heart of the company's mission statement, inspiring the team and the customers alike. A global legacy. Meanwhile, the Clara Code continued to gain traction across industries. Universities began incorporating Clara's principles into their business ethics courses. Community leaders around the world used her story as a blueprint for fostering inclusive and compassionate spaces. Even governments took note, implementing policies to promote dignity and respect in public services. Clara's influence had grown so far-reaching that a documentary was made about her life. Titled The Woman with the Silver Necklace, it premiered to critical acclaim, showcasing Clara's journey from a humble villager to a global icon for change. The film featured interviews with people whose lives had been transformed by her teachings: shopkeepers, executives, students, and everyday citizens who had been inspired to view the world through a lens of kindness. At the premiere, Clara sat quietly in the audience, her heart swelling with pride and humility. As the final credits rolled, the audience erupted in applause, many rising to their feet in tribute. Clara, now too frail to stand, simply placed a hand over her heart, her eyes glistening with gratitude. As Clara approached her 100th birthday, her home became a hub of activity. Letters poured in from around the world, and visitors arrived to pay their respects and share how her story had impacted their lives. Clara greeted each one with warmth, often remarking, "I didn't do this alone." Change happens when we all decide to be better. Her family, ever attentive, began planning a celebration to honor her legacy. Amelia, now a successful entrepreneur, took charge of organizing the event, determined to make it a reflection of Clara's values. The day of the celebration arrived, and the town square was transformed into a vibrant space, filled with flowers, banners, and laughter. People of all ages and backgrounds gathered to celebrate Clara's life, each carrying a story of how her actions had touched them. Artisans displayed their crafts, musicians performed songs of hope, and children played games inspired by Clara's teachings on kindness and community. When Clara was wheeled onto the stage, the crowd fell silent, their collective admiration palpable. Amelia knelt beside her great-grandmother, holding the microphone close so Clara could speak. "Thank you," Clara began, her voice soft but clear. "Not for celebrating me, but for carrying forward what we've built together. My story is not mine alone. It belongs to everyone who has chosen to act with kindness, to stand against injustice, and to believe in the power of small actions." She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "I won't be here forever, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that you keep going. Keep planting seeds of hope. Keep believing that every person, no matter how small or unseen, has the power to create change." The crowd erupted in applause, their cheers echoing through the square. Clara smiled, her heart full, knowing that her words would live on long after she was gone. The passing of the torch. A few months later, Clara passed away peacefully in her sleep, her family by her side. Though her absence left a void, her legacy remained alive in the countless lives she had touched. Her journal, filled with handwritten notes and reflections, became a treasured artifact, published as Clara's Seeds, a guide to growing kindness. Amelia continued her great-grandmother's work, expanding her company and partnering with organizations to promote ethical practices and inclusivity. On the anniversary of Clara's passing, Amelia launched the Clara Initiative, a global campaign dedicated to supporting young leaders who sought to create change in their communities. A legacy in bloom. Decades later, Clara's story was still told in classrooms, boardrooms, and homes around the world. Statues were erected in her honor, not to glorify her, but to remind people of the power of humility, kindness, and courage. One such statue, placed in the heart of her village, depicted Clara holding a small sapling, a symbol of the seeds she had planted and the forest of change that had grown from them. And as each new generation discovered her story, they found themselves inspired by the same timeless truth. Even the smallest actions, when rooted in compassion, can create ripples that change the world. This final installment weaves together Clara's legacy, her family's continued impact, and the global reverberations of her actions, providing a deeply fulfilling conclusion to the story, while emphasizing the enduring power of kindness and courage. A world reimagined. Clara's legacy extended beyond her lifetime, taking root in unexpected ways and growing into something far greater than anyone could have imagined. Though her physical presence was no longer with her family and the world she had inspired, her spirit lingered in the lessons she imparted, the seeds she had sown, and the action she had inspired. Years after Clara's passing, her great-granddaughter Amelia spearheaded a movement that would forever change the landscape of ethical commerce and human connection. Inspired by Clara's teachings, Amelia envisioned not just businesses but entire communities thriving on the principles of dignity, empathy, and inclusion. The Clara Foundation. Amelia officially launched the Clara Foundation, an organization aimed at empowering individuals and businesses to prioritize human values over profit. The foundation's core mission was simple yet profound: to ensure that no person ever felt invisible, dismissed, or undervalued. The foundation's initiatives included empathy training for businesses. Programs were developed to train employees and leaders in understanding and addressing customer and community needs with compassion. From large corporations to small family-owned shops, the training became a cornerstone of a new global standard: community healing projects. The foundation funded grassroots efforts in struggling communities, focusing on rebuilding trust and fostering connection through shared goals. Projects ranged from renovating public spaces to hosting community-wide events inspired by Clara's values. Scholarships for change-makers. Young leaders with innovative ideas to address social and economic inequality were given resources, mentorship, and a platform to bring their visions to life. Amelia's leadership and Clara's story resonated across generations. Soon, governments, educational institutions, and international organizations joined forces with the Clara Foundation to create a ripple effect of transformation. The Clara Standard. By the time Amelia reached her 40s, a global certification program called the Clara Standard had emerged. Businesses, schools, and even cities sought to earn the certification, which symbolized their commitment to dignity, fairness, and inclusion. To achieve certification, organizations were required to implement practices that aligned with Clara's principles. Transparent and ethical decision-making processes. Policies that prioritize respect for all individuals, regardless of socioeconomic status, race, age, or gender. Initiatives to uplift underserved communities. The Clara Standard quickly became a badge of honor, signaling to customers, employees, and partners that a business or organization operated with a heart. Technology meets humanity. One of the most significant challenges faced by the Clara Foundation was integrating these human-centric values into an increasingly digital world. Amelia partnered with innovative thinkers to create tools that bridged the gap between technology and humanity. One such creation was the Clara Eye, a groundbreaking program designed to teach empathy in virtual interactions. The AI was implemented in online customer service platforms, ensuring that even in digital spaces, people felt seen and respected. The program's tagline, "Making the invisible visible," became a mantra for the modern era. Amelia also launched an app called Kindred, where individuals could share stories of kindness, connect with like-minded people, and find opportunities to volunteer or contribute to community projects. Clara's story was prominently featured on the app's homepage, serving as a reminder of the impact one person could have. Generations of impact. As the years passed, Clara's family continued to grow, each generation carrying forward her vision. Amelia's son, Daniel, became a historian who chronicled the global changes sparked by Clara's actions. His book, The Quiet Revolution, Clara's Legacy and the New Era of Kindness, became an international bestseller, taught in schools and referenced in leadership programs worldwide. Meanwhile, Clara's great-great-grandchildren, inspired by their family's legacy, embarked on their own journeys of change-making. From environmental advocacy to social justice, each pursued their passions with the same unwavering commitment to fairness and empathy that Clara had embodied. One of Clara's descendants, Maya, founded a nonprofit organization called Every Voice Matters, focused on amplifying the voices of marginalized communities in policymaking and media. Maya often quoted her great-great-grandmother's words, "It's not about being loud, it's about being heard." A world reborn. A century after Clara's initial visit to the Golden Sun jewelry store, the world looked remarkably different. The Clara Code had been adopted as a universal framework, integrated into educational curriculums, business practices, and government policies. Statues of Clara adorned parks and public spaces, not as symbols of hero worship, but as reminders of the power of quiet strength and determination. On the 100th anniversary of Clara's iconic stand for dignity, a global celebration was held. Cities around the world organized events to honor her legacy. In Clara's village, her home had been transformed into a museum and community center, where visitors could learn about her life and the changes she had inspired. The centerpiece of the museum was the silver necklace with the blue stone, the item that had sparked it all. Visitors were often moved to tears as they read the story behind the necklace, a tangible symbol of Clara's unwavering resolve and the love she carried for her family. The final chapter. As the global celebration came to a close, Amelia, now in her 70s, stood on the same stage where Clara had once spoken decades earlier. She looked out at the crowd, her voice steady and filled with emotion. My great-grandmother Clara taught us that even the smallest actions can change the world. She showed us that kindness is not a weakness, but a strength. And today, as we look at how far we've come, let us remember that her legacy is not just a story from the past. It's a call to action for the future. She paused, her gaze sweeping the audience. The world isn't perfect yet. There are still challenges to face, injustices to address, and hearts to heal. But if Clara's life has taught us anything, it's this. Every small step, every act of kindness, every voice raised with courage, they all matter. And together, they can create a world where no one feels invisible. The crowd erupted into applause, their cheers echoing into the night. Clara's story, carried forward by those she had inspired, continued to illuminate a path toward a more compassionate, equitable world. And so, Clara's legacy lived on, not as a single spark, but as an eternal flame, lighting the way for generations yet to come. This emphasizes the enduring impact of Clara's actions across generations, showcasing how her legacy reshaped the world into a kinder, more inclusive place. It ties her story to the broader human experience, leaving readers with a powerful and uplifting message of hope and unity. The lasting light. Clara's legacy became a cornerstone of modern humanity, a reminder that change often begins with the simplest act of courage. Across the globe, her name was synonymous with empathy, dignity, and quiet strength. Yet, what made her story resonate most was not its grandeur but its simplicity. A woman who refused to be invisible, and in doing so, illuminated the path for others. In the quiet village where her journey began, Clara's family gathered for a reunion at what was now called Clara's Hearth, the museum and community center established in her honor. Generations of her descendants filled the space, their laughter and stories echoing through the walls. They carried her lessons in their hearts, weaving them into the fabric of their own lives. Amelia, now retired but still vibrant, sat near the fireplace where a plaque bore Clara's favorite words. True worth is measured by the kindness we share, not the riches we hold. She reflected on how those words had guided her great-grandmother's actions and inspired countless others to build a more compassionate world. The lesson for all. As the evening drew on, Amelia addressed the family and visitors gathered at Clara's hearth. Her voice, soft yet filled with conviction, carried the weight of generations. Great-Grandma Clara's story began with a single moment, walking into a store, clutching her savings, and being dismissed because of how she looked. But that moment didn't define her. What defined her was how she responded. She didn't let the world's judgment crush her spirit. She stood tall, not for recognition, but because she believed in her own dignity and in the goodness of others. Amelia paused, her gaze meeting the eyes of those present. The lesson she left us is simple but profound. Never underestimate the power of small acts of courage and kindness. When we choose to see the humanity in others, we ignite a spark that can light up the darkest corners of the world. The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling like a gentle warmth. The descendants of Clara, and the many visitors who had been touched by her legacy, knew that her story was not just history. It was a guide for the future. Carrying the torch. As the gathering dispersed, a child tugged at Amelia's sleeve. It was Maya, Clara's great-great-great-granddaughter, holding a small notebook. I wrote something, Grandma, she said shyly. It's about how I want to help people, like great-grandma Clara did. Amelia smiled, tears glistening in her eyes, and knelt to embrace the young girl. You already have, my dear. By carrying her story forward, you're helping the world remember what matters most. Maya's notebook, filled with her dreams and ideas, became a symbol of the ongoing ripple effect Clara had started. A reminder that every generation holds the power to make the world a little brighter. The enduring flame. Clara's story, though it had concluded, was not an ending but a beginning for countless others. Her actions taught a timeless truth. No one is too small to make a difference, and no act of kindness is ever wasted. As her legacy continued to grow, it reminded the world that true change comes not from power or wealth, but from the quiet strength of believing in one's worth and the worth of others. The silver necklace with the blue stone, now displayed at Clara's hearth, shimmered in the soft light, a testament to the journey of a humble woman whose courage reshaped the world. Clara's flame would never be extinguished, for it burned brightly in every act of compassion, every moment of courage, and every person who chose to stand tall in the face of doubt. And so, Clara's lesson endured, a guiding light for generations to come. Be kind. Be brave. Believe in yourself and others. Together, we can create a world where no one feels invisible. This concludes the story. Thank you for watching until the end. I hope you found it enjoyable. If you did, please consider liking the video and sharing it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and activate the notification bell for more captivating stories. Have a great day.